out what they could do to decrease pain injuries. And so the question they asked is, okay, so what is the main predictor for pain, right? For low back pain, for neck and shoulder pain. They assumed it would be some sort of ergonomic issue. They assumed it would be some sort of injury, right? That's what we all would assume, that pain is caused by these physical things. What Boeing found was that the #1 predictor for neck and shoulder pain was a lack of sense of support, lack of social support, right? That sense that you had to do it all alone. Was the main predictor across all of the people who work in offices, people who work in factories, people who are building planes, right? Everyone, the thing that caused them all pain was feeling like they didn't have the support they needed, which I think a lot of us are feeling right now. Low back pain, interestingly, the #1 predictor for that is job dissatisfaction. So when we are all having those moments of feeling a little frustrated with what we do professionally with our jobs, you may notice you feel that more in your lower back. But happily, that's not what people are feeling right now. Right now, it's a lot of neck and shoulder pain. That also makes sense given how much many of us are not in our normal offices and are slumped over computers, right? And we're in these ergonomic positions that are not the ones that we're used to, that are not as good as they will be once we either get back into our offices or get ourselves some good co-working space until we can get back into the office. So anyway, all of that is just some background to say neck and shoulder pain, if you have it right now, you are not alone. And there's certainly this both and, right, of the physical and the emotional stresses that are causing that. So I want to give you and walk you guys through 2 exercises today to help with that. They both address that tension that we're experiencing. So if you guys want to follow along, that's wonderful. If you don't want to, you can just watch and remember. I don't know if these are recorded, if you can watch these exercises later. But I think I may have some of them on my website. You can check them out there if we're not recording this, but I think we maybe are. So exercise #1 is a chest opening exercise. You know, we're doing a lot of this, whether we're doing this because we're in front of a computer, or we're looking down at tablets, or because we're being a little protective of our hearts and we're a little nervous and we're a little scared and we're kind of pulling in. So before we do that, I want to just give you guys a couple little cues that you'll need to know for later. So one thing I'm going to ask you to do later in this is find your belly button and then find the place where your collarbones come together. You think about bringing those as close together as you can, and think about then spreading them out as far apart as you can. That's something that I'm going to have you do later. I just want you to try it now so that when I ask you to do it in the middle of the exercise, it makes sense and you know what's going on. So that's the only thing that I wanted you to know. And then the other one before we start is thinking about stretching with your thumbs up versus with your thumbs down. You see how that changes? It changes the way your hands are, but it also, if you notice, will cause these changes all throughout your whole arm. So just being aware of, if I say thumbs up, it means your palms are up like that. If I say thumbs down, it means down like that. So just keep those in mind as we start by just noticing that tension, right? So I want you to take your hands, put them like this, and then put them right here, right? Your collarbones come together, just right below there. Close your eyes, take a breath or 2 in through your nose, out through your mouth, and notice what you feel, right? You may notice that tension in your shoulders, tension in your neck. You may notice some anxiety, you may notice some sadness. You may notice some resistance, right? This is not why you signed on to this call. You do not want to feel all this tension in your neck. You just want it to go away. You do not want to feel it. That's a good thing to just be aware of, right? That's whatever you're noticing, just let it be there. Is it physical? Is it emotional? Is it both? Do you feel that tension like pulling into your head? Do you feel it pulling into your shoulders, right? The first thing we need to do before we can solve any problem, we've got to identify it, right? So right now we're just noticing what's going on. Breath in through your nose, out through your mouth. So now as we keep noticing this tension, I want you to make it worse, make it more intense, right? Bring your arch your shoulders in more. Maybe, right? Maybe you're going to move your neck in a position to make that, to like increase that tension, right? You may find yourself wanting to like even arch your back, right? So that your whole back is forward. but just really like make that tension harder and like more intense. And then once you really are like present with that feeling and like you're ready to release it, you're going to do that thing we talked about before, where you're going to open up. You're going to bring your belly button far away from your sternum. Right? You're going to stretch out slowly. You're then slowly going to open up your arms with your thumbs facing up. You're going to take a deep breath or two. You may want to bring your head back, right? You may want to tilt your neck in different ways, but really think about your arms spreading out so that your fingers are trying to touch the walls, right? They can't get there, but they're really stretching out towards the wall. Feeling that opening, taking some breaths. And then just coming back to neutral, right? So bring your arms in, just gently lay them on your chest. Bring your neck a little more forward. Kind of rock a little bit. And then notice how that feels. Right? That was a lot of opening and a lot of expansion. So just give yourself a minute. Let your body process through that. This time of rest after the stretch is as important as the stretch itself. Gives your body time to release and process. So give yourself a minute. And then when you feel ready, you're going to open up again. Okay, open up. And this time you can play a little bit, right? So you're like this. Notice what happens if you put your hands the other way. See how that stretch changes? Does that feel better? Does that feel worse? Which one feels like a better stretch for you? Play with your arms. Do you want to bring them up a little bit? You want to bring them down. For me, down feels better. Like for me, having my arms down here with my thumbs down feels good. For me, about here with my thumbs up feels good. That's just the way I'm holding tension in my shoulders right now, so play with it. Right? How far down, how far up, thumbs down, where do you notice? Right? And then just find wherever feels good. And then you can do your neck, right? Bring your neck down to the side so that your ear is coming to your shoulder. Notice how that really stretches out your neck. Hold that. And then go to the other side. And then notice how that's different, right? One side or the other. Do you have, again, is there some emotional stuff coming up, right? Does this cause you to feel sad? Does it cause you to feel anxious? Does it cause you to just not want to do this and stop, right? Whatever it is, you can just notice it. And then, again, back to neutral. You may want to wiggle around. I'm standing up as I'm doing this, and I kind of want to like wiggle my hips, wiggle my knees around. Stretch, roll out your shoulders. Give your body a minute to like process through what you just did. So when you do this, by yourself later, you may want to do a couple more rounds of that. You may not, right? But there's no magic number. It's really about listening to your body, doing it really slowly, right? Giving your body time to feel into all of it. Then when you feel like, okay, this feels more open, as I said, I started to want to wiggle my hips and my knees around. If that point doesn't come when you just kind of feel like it's over, do it like 4 times. See how that feels. Then the other exercise, which I would do immediately after that first one, but again, you can play with this, do it however you want, is to then do some grounding, right? Because the other thing that's happening right now is that there is a lot of anxiety in the world, right? As women, we have been trained since we were very young to be very aware of other people's emotions. And so we are especially susceptible to feeling all that anxiety in the world and getting the anxiety in the world confused with our personal experience, right? So one thing we need to do is come back into our bodies. We can only help and support others if we're really grounded in ourselves. And right now, people are not grounded in themselves. Most of us are really like out here in all this fear and anxiety and chaos, and like, that's part of this whole shoulder headache stuff people are getting, is like we're very high in our bodies right now, like high up here rather than like grounded. So what I want you guys to do is, if you want to stand up, great. If you want to stay seated, that's fine too. But what you're going to do is notice where we were, right? You're going to notice your shoulders, your chest, and then really bring your awareness down lower, right? So that you're down feeling. Put your hands below your belly button. so that you can really, push this down so you guys can see me better. Hands down here. All right, so take a couple breaths in through your nose, out through your mouth, down into your pelvis, down below your belly button. If you can't actually get any breath there, that's fine, right? Like if you can't take a deep enough breath that your hands expand, just leave your hands there and pretend you're breathing into there. That's fine too. And then bring them back up here. Again, breath in through your nose, out through your mouth. And just notice what you feel there. And then come back down to here. And notice how that feels different. Right? The point of this exercise is to help you ground. It's also to help you just get present in the difference of these two places. And notice like what you feel here and what you feel here. And letting both of those be there. So come back up. Take a breath or two. And then go back down. So again, this is an exercise you can do as part of what you did before, or just take a minute when you're feeling anxious, when you're feeling scared, when you're feeling all the things that we're all feeling right now when we engage with the world. Notice what's here. The closer together your hands are, the better, so you can really like find this spot. Breath in through your nose, out through your mouth, and then bring it down to below your belly button. Hands there, take a breath or two there, and then just notice. Right? And then you can just go back and forth between noticing what's here. Again, whether you notice it physically, right? It feels tight, it feels painful. It doesn't feel like anything. I don't know why I'm doing this, but she told me to, so I'm breathing here. Right? Whatever the experience is good. And then go down to the other place. And then just noticing, right? Having your hands on the spot will help your body cue it and help your body find it better. So even if it doesn't seem like it's doing much, the physical act of moving your hands back and forth will, if nothing else, that will be beneficial. So those are two things I just wanted to show you guys today as far as some ways to manage all that is going on in the world right now. And to help with some of that shoulder tension, to be aware that it is both the ergonomics and all the screen time and all we're doing, and then it's also much more multifactorial than that. So I hope that's helpful. Feel free to email me and we can ask some questions if you guys have any questions about that or anything you'd like to follow up with.
I have a question.
Yes.
Are there any breathing or positional exercises or approaches when you're having trouble falling asleep?
So when you're having trouble falling asleep, is it because like your mind is racing? Like tell me a little bit more about what's hard about falling asleep.
Yeah, if say your mind is racing, it's time for you to go to sleep, but your mind is racing and you're trying to find a way to relax your mind and relax your body. So
one of the things I would suggest two things. One is movement in your joints is going to help get you back into your body, right? So like wiggling your wrists around, doing the same thing with your feet, right? You're just that you'll be surprised just that neurologically there are these really specific nerves in your joint that are really helpful to get you a little more grounded. So I would say wiggle your hands, wiggle your feet. One good thing to do is especially with your ankles is to try to write the alphabet, right? So you like do this with your foot and then B and then C and then D, right? That'll just kind of get your mind focused on your body. Mm-hmm. So that's one thing I would suggest. Mm-hmm. The other thing that you can do that I like to do and give patients to do in all sorts of stressful situations is to notice sounds around you. Mm-hmm. Right? If you do this during the day when you're just trying to feel grounded, one really good thing to do is to look at 5 things, right, and name them. Like right now I can see green leaves and I can see a black book and I can see a blue wall. Saying that out loud will help your anxiety. If you're trying to fall asleep, you don't really want to open your eyes and start looking around the room, but you can do it with sounds, right? Mm-hmm. Just lay there quietly and, do you hear anything, right? Do you hear a fan? Do you hear someone snoring? Do you hear, and then like just trying to get out of your head and into the world around you in a sensory way. What do you hear? Do you smell anything? What do you smell? oftentimes we don't really smell much, so that might, you may not smell anything. And then what do you feel, right? Okay, I feel my shirt against my shoulders. I feel the sheets against my feet. I feel, the pillow against my head, right? Whatever you can just start then feeling. Coming up with those sorts of things will kind of get you out of your head. So those are two things I would suggest to do in those.
Great, thanks.
Yeah.
So is part of your practice teaching meditation?
No, I mean, a little bit of it is. Most of my practice is very hands-on. People come in, they lay down, I do my thing. Occasionally we do a little of this, but sometimes not a lot though, no. It's more physical.
I have a question.
Okay.
So we're all carrying stress, like you said, and it's different reasons.
Uh-huh.
Support. That's very interesting you said that, because I had this amazing massage with Amanda, 1 hour in her chair. I felt comfortable and safe. And then like the next day, stress of the world came back and my neck was all like tension again. I'm like, really? I just was like, had this amazing massage. Like, it's almost like I got too relaxed, or I don't know. Is there anything to do to strengthen myself so I don't get that again?
Yeah, so I would say a bunch of things. The first thing I say a lot to my patients, and I think Amanda would agree with this as well, although she can chime in if she doesn't, is to remember that what I'm doing and what I think Amanda is probably doing as well is helping you release old stress and old tension. So you never undo it, right? It never comes back. What happens is you had more stress, right? It's like, we often feel this way about the kitchen, right? I wash all the dishes, it's clean, and then 2 hours later, there's all these dishes again. We didn't undo the dishes I washed, it's just new stresses come in, right? So to the degree that you can feel a little bit better about, you didn't undo all that good work you and Amanda did, right? The dishes, the old dishes didn't get dirty again, it's that there's now new dishes. So if that makes you feel any better, just that little bit of a shift. And then the other thing I will say is that this helping people find the physiological healing strategies they have is one of the main things that the kind of chiropractic I do helps people with, right? I had a patient come in yesterday and say, I was driving, she had to drive her daughter up to a facility about 5 hours from here 2 days ago. So she was in the car for 10 hours. It was a very emotionally stressful experience, both for her and her daughter to have to make this best decision for their family. And she said on the way back, she started getting a headache. And normally that headache would have come on to like a full-blown migraine and she would have had a migraine for hours. But she said, it started to come on and I just noticed it didn't like latch in the way it would have before. And it just kind of like dissipated and went away much more easily. And that's something that my patients report a lot, is that her body just knew how to heal it, right? And it was not a cognitive process of like, okay, let me do this stretch, which is great, if that's what it had been. But as your body learns to process physical, mental, emotional stresses better, which is what I'm doing in my office, those just, on a physiological level, your body learns how to let them go. So yeah, that's absolutely something that we can help you with. That's a lot of what we do.
I just wanted to mention another thing that helps me, because I do tend to carry tension in my neck and shoulders, is that Jim actually teaches in his yoga classes to focus on the lower trapezius. And so when I do activities with my neck and shoulders, we often use just the upper part of our trapezius. But if we focus on the lower, which is like right below the shoulders, like right, below my underarm here, I find that it just shifts the way I'm using my muscles and it prevents tension. So I find that really helpful. I learned that from some of my yoga teachers, including Jim. I put it down there. So just focusing on those areas for breathing or any lifting or any movement decreases the tension in the shoulders and neck by focusing down here. And it's a mental thing because you don't really use those little muscles. And we don't realize we're focusing on here so much just by the way we are in the world, on the computer, lifting things. And it's really changed my life to just do that little bit of switch in how I use my arms. And that prevents some of this coming on. So that might help, Sarah Jane. When you asked that question, it reminded me about the trapezius. So.
Yeah, that's great. And one of the ways to access that lower trapezius I found in our kind of you may have other suggestions, is like that thumbs down, right? When I talked about like putting your thumbs down, that's going to access the lower traps more. With thumbs up, it's going to be more the upper traps.
Right.
So you'll notice that when you put your thumbs down, you feel how it's like kind of lower. In
Yeah,
your,
you feel it. Yeah.
So that's a good way to access out the lower trap stuff. And I'm sure there's a lot of other great ways that Jim can teach you guys when you go to his yoga class.
Awesome.
And then I put in the past tense. Oh my gosh, this essential oil is specific for releasing the tension in the neck and shoulders. And we kind of run out of it every month. We just love that oil.
Is that like an arnica? Is that like an arnica?
No, actually, it's from doTERRA. Like the talk tonight is a doTERRA talk. It's from that company, but the specific one called Past Tense really helps release the neck and shoulders or headaches and things like that, in addition to carrying the burdens of the world from the past on our shoulders. So it's a really good oil. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Maggie. I found that to be very helpful, and at least for, you know, this 30 minutes to be a lot more relaxing.
Oh, good. Yeah, and you can, you know, do it again whenever you think of it, or just, you know, get up and walk around for a minute. Go outside. Right? We all need to be reminded.